Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for another episode of Eye on Hakko. My name is Kenta, and for today's episode, I'll be going over the Hakko FX-801 Ultra Heavy Duty Soldering Station. So, what do I mean when I say ultra heavy duty soldering station? Well, to start off with, here at American Hakko Products, we have a variety of different soldering stations available, anywhere from micro soldering, regular standard soldering stations, heavy duty soldering stations, and like I mentioned, the ultra heavy duty soldering station, right? To give you guys a little bit of idea in numbers, the micro soldering station and regular soldering station, they put out power anywhere from 75 to maybe 100, 120 watts of power. And there's the heavy duty soldering irons that take up anywhere from say 140 to 150 watts of power all the way up to 200 watts of power. And then there's the ultra heavy duty soldering station, the FX-801. This soldering station uses 300 watts of power. That's why we call it the ultra heavy duty soldering station. Now, who or what type of our customers are in need of such high power? Well, there's a lot of customers that are in the EV market, electric vehicle market, for example, that use our stations to work on larger components, like larger inductor coils, larger transformers, larger capacitors, larger wires and cable assemblies, any type of applications where there is a very high demand for very high thermal demand. That's when you want to use the FX-801 ultra heavy duty soldering station. Now, today's episode, I'm going to be going over some of the basic features and benefits of the stations. I'll go over really quick, how to operate, make changes to your set temperature, use preset features, whatnot. And then I'll go over the tip series, tip series of the FX-801. And then at the very end, I'll give a very quick demonstration that'll be able to show you guys the power of the FX-801 ultra heavy duty soldering station. So without further ado, let's get started with today's show. So to start off with, I want to go over really quickly the specs and features of the FX-801 soldering station. Again, I mentioned it's a 300 watt soldering station, right? But 260 watts of it is being delivered through the handpiece to the actual solder joint. Now you can see the handpiece. It's called the FX-8002. It's a very lightweight, compact handpiece. I could fit it in the palm of my hand, hold it, grip it as I'm working on my application. It's not causing any kind of strain or stress on my hand at all. So it's nice and lightweight, compact handpiece. It's about 50 grams in weight, for those of you who would like to know. So that's the handpiece. The temperature settings that you're allowed on the FX-801, anywhere from 50 degrees Celsius all the way up to 500 degrees Celsius. Now in Fahrenheit, that's about 120 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 940 degrees in Fahrenheit. There's also preset features that you can use, auto sleep feature, auto shut off feature, password lockout features, different modes that you can use, high power mode or normal mode that you can go into once you get into system parameters. Those are all useful features and benefits that you can use or that are available on the FX-801. I'll get into a few of those features, how to set your temperature in a little bit. But before I get into that part of it, let me just talk a little bit more about the tip series. The tip series that you can use on the FX-801, there's two different kinds. One is called the T33, T as in Tom, 33 like the number 33, like, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 33, right? So it's T33. Those are the standard tip series. And there's also T33 Slims Part number wise, it's T33-SS-D24, for example, for the slim type version of the D24. So there's T33s and there's T33 slims. Now you can see the difference in the actual tip shape. So over here on my left, I have the T33-1611 tip shape. And over here on my right, I have the T33-SS-1610. You can see there's a difference in the shape. One is the slim shape, as you can imagine from the name, and the difference in the diameter of I'll call it the shoulder area of those two tips, right? The standard T33 shapes, the diameter of the shoulder area, it's about a little bit over 10 millimeters, whereas the diameter of the slim shape, it's a little bit over 7 millimeters in diameter. So that difference in diameter will allow the slim type shape to get into narrow in-between components in densely populated areas where the standard T33 shapes will not allow you to get into. Now in both T33 and T33 slim type versions, we carry a variety of tip shapes, mostly in the bevel and the chisel types, but we also have a few tip shapes that are in the groove or and also in the slotted type version of the tips as well. So make sure you check those out as well. Now that I've gone over the tips, the tip shapes, let me move over to the actual station here and go over the operation on the FX-801. Now this is I'll call it the face of the FX-801 soldering station. As you can see, it's ESD safe, right? And you'll find two areas of display. One main large display and also a smaller window display here. This is where you'll find the set temperature, and this is where you'll find the preset number. I'll get into that in a minute, but let's just turn on the station here. Power button, turn the station on, 400. That's what I currently have my set temperature at. So for those of you who are familiar with the Hakko soldering stations, you may already know that one quick push of the start button will allow you to check your set temperature. And if you press and hold the start button, it'll allow you to change your set temperature, right? So now from here on out, I can use a combination of the up, down, and enter or the start button to make changes to my set temperature. So say I want to go from 400 to 350. I just use the down button once, hit enter, the tens digit, you can use up or down. 5, hit enter, and then 0, I'll keep it there and hit enter again. And real easy, that is how I make changes to my set temperature. Again, press one time for a quick glance of your set temperature. Press and hold to change your set temperature. Now there's another way that you can change your set temperature. It's by using the preset feature I explained a little bit earlier. To use the preset feature, instead of pressing the start button, you press the up button one time, and then you'll notice the display on the left, it's flashing at 0. As I keep pressing the up button, it goes from 1, 2, 3, and as these numbers are changing, so are the temperatures on the larger display, right? Those are all the different preset temperatures that I currently have programmed into my FX-801 soldering station. So I was talking about an easier way or a faster way to to change your set temperature. All you have to do is go to preset, whatever preset you want, hit enter, and I just made the changes to my set temperature. Instead of having to do this, changing, scrolling through, changing, scrolling through. That's one way I can make changes to my set temperature. Another way I can do it is simply pressing that button, go into the preset that I want, hit enter, and I'm done. All I have to do now is wait for my tip to reach its set temperature. So again, preset feature, real useful feature when you're using this type of tool in the industry to make your changes on your temperature from one temperature to the next. This sort of feature may not be that much useful if you're, say, working at home in the for DIY or hobby type applications, where once you have your set temperature already in place, then there's really no need to change your set temperature. But in the different industry, like industrial, electrical, manufacturing industries, where you may be working at various different types of set temperature, say you're working at 400 degrees Celsius on one application, but you need to go down to 350 C on the next application, then it's a nice feature to have. It's really useful. It's a really quick way to change your set temperature. So that was the preset feature. As I mentioned earlier, there's also other useful features that come with the FX-801, like auto shut off, auto sleep features, changing the temperature on your auto sleep, using the high power mode or normal power mode. Those are all features that come with the 801, but you will find once you get into the system parameters. To get into the system parameters, you first turn off your station, right? And to get into the system parameters, you press down and hold the up button, and then turn on your station. Now you've entered into the system parameters, and what you see there is a flashing 01. That means parameter 1. If you want to know what parameter 1 is, you hit the enter button. What is parameter 1? It says C, or as I toggle through with the up and down button, it's C or F. What do you think that is? It's units of temperature, right? So I had it on C, that's Celsius or centigrade. And I can also use the station in Fahrenheit as well, right? So I had it on Celsius. If I want to go to Fahrenheit just for demo purposes, I put it to F, hit enter. Now I'm back on this screen. There's also other parameters in here, like I mentioned earlier. Parameter 2, if I hit enter and take a look, that's your auto sleep time. Right now I have it at 02, so that's 2 minutes after I place my iron into the holder. My iron will go into sleep mode. That's what parameter 2 is. Parameter 3 is low temperature alarm. So when my iron temperature drops below 540 degrees Fahrenheit, then it'll give me an alarm. Parameter 5 is an error for when I have like a sensor error or a heater error that'll give off a buzzer. And then there's parameter 6, that's another alarm that'll beep, that the station will beep once my temperature reach its set temperature. If you go in there, 1 is always on, 0 always means that it's off. So 0 is off, 1 is on. I like to keep that parameter on. Parameter 7 is turning on or off your auto sleep feature. So if you go in there, you will see that I have it on. Parameter 8 is auto shut off feature, if you want to use that feature on. So if you go in there, this feature, I'll always have it on as well. 1 for on. Auto shut off feature, parameter 12. Now this parameter is interesting because you will not find it on many other of our soldering stations. If you go in there, again, it's 0 or 1. 0 means high power mode and 1 means normal power mode. I use it on high power mode, but the difference is in normal power mode. For example, if I have my set temperature at 400 degrees Celsius, the station will ramp up and once it gets closer to 400 degrees Celsius, it'll slowly ramp up and it won't overshoot, and it'll maintain at 400 degrees Celsius, right? Again, it's going to have this nice curve so that it doesn't overshoot and it keeps it at 400 degrees Celsius. That's normal power mode. I'll call it more of a precision or accuracy mode. That's another way you can say it. High power mode, on the other hand, even though the set temperature is the same 400 degrees Celsius, it's gonna full pedal to the metal till it gets to 400 degrees Celsius. It'll even overshoot 400 and then come back down to 400 degrees Celsius. Again, it's gonna go over and then come back down to 400 degrees Celsius. That's in high power mode. So that's the difference between high power mode and normal power mode. Our customers, or for those people who like to use precision or who do not want to have your soldering irons overshoot, use it in normal power mode. But for those of you who don't really care if your soldering irons overshoot and just want full pedal to the metal, you can use high power mode. And for today's demo purposes, you saw that my parameter 12 was set to 1, so I have it on, set to 0, so I have it in high power mode, right? Now let's go back. Again, I'll show you parameter 12, I have it set to 0, so that's in high power mode. Now there's just a couple more other parameters. Parameter 13, this is adjusting your sleep temperature. So you can adjust it anywhere from 200 degrees Celsius on upwards. So I'll change that from 480 to 380. Let's change it to 390. Right? And then this parameter 14 is password lockout. So if you go in there, again, you can turn that off or on. I like to keep that off. But if people who use parameter 14 password lockout feature is those people who want to avoid any kind of unwanted changes to your soldering iron station, right? And parameter 18, that is to change your auto shutoff time. So you could change it anywhere from 30 minutes all the way up to 60 minutes. So for example, I can change it from 30 to, say 33 for T33 tips, for example, right? And then once you make all of your necessary changes in your system parameters, don't forget to press and hold the start button. To yes, you want to save all your changes, or no, you want to make additional changes. In my case, it's yes. So remember, I just changed it from C to F, so that's what you're seeing now. My display is now represented in Fahrenheit. Okay, so now it's trying to get up to what? 734 Fahrenheit. If I want to change it again, really, 71250, right? That's how I change my set temperature. Again, a faster way, up, find my preset temperature, and hit enter. So those are the features and benefits of the FX-801. Some useful features, very useful features like auto sleep feature to preserve your tip life, auto shutoff feature, which is a really nice safety feature to always use. And I also talked about the different types of tips, the T33 regular T33 tips and the T33 slim type tips. Now that I talked about all that good stuff, let's dive into the actual quick demo using the FX-801, where I just want to quickly show the difference in power compared to a regular FX-951 and the FX-801. So I'll go ahead and turn on the fume extractor that I have here, so I can get that going. And actually, let me change my 801 here back to Celsius, because I just work better in Celsius. And save my changes. Yes. And by the way, if you want to make changes in your preset temperatures, instead of hitting the up button one time, you press and hold the up button. Now you can see both displays are flashing. That's how you make changes to your preset temperatures. So I can go into say I want to change preset number 3 because it's at 399. I want to change it to 400. I hit that, and then I can go from 400. Now my preset 3 used to be 399. Now it's at 400. There you go. So I have my FX-801 set at 400 degrees Celsius. And over here to my left, I also have my FX-951 set also to 400 degrees Celsius. While the station 951 is warming up, I'm just going to say the 951 is one of our most best-selling soldering stations out there in the industry. It's our introductory industrial use soldering station. Like I said, it's one of our top-selling soldering stations. Great power, great performance for its price, and it's enough power to use on most electronic assembly type applications. I just have a very large thermally demanding application in front of me here today to show the difference between our 951 and the FX-801, okay? Let me bring the camera over here. Just really quickly, I told you I have my 951 set at 400 degrees Celsius. Just to show everyone. $410, which is, you know, plus or minus, within the plus or minus 15 C range out of the box, so it's where it's supposed to be. And you guys probably can't see what I have on the other side, so I'll take this out and I'll show you. This is what the application looks like. Large coils, copper wound coils that take up a lot of heat as soon as you touch the solder joint. And you can see the surrounding area of the solder joint has a bunch of thermal reliefs. So those two are also taking away a lot of the heat away from that area. So that's the type of board and application that I'm going to be working on today for a demo, because it's a good representation of something that requires a lot of thermal demand. Let me get in closer. And go other way. I'm getting closer. Oh, there you go. I'm just trying to focus. It's probably good there. And again, I have my FX-951 set at 400 degrees Celsius. And I didn't tell you guys the actual tip shape, sorry. The tip shape, this is a T15 D5 tip shape. So that's a chisel, 5mm chisel shape. And just so you guys know, I'm using a lead-free SAC 305 0.8mm solder here. I'm going to be soldering to show you how long it's going to take to reflow this actual solder joint, right? So I'll be counting down with the regular or standard 951 soldering iron T15 D5 shape. So here you go. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000, 8, 1,000, 9, 1,000, 10, 1,000, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, it's starting to go, 21, 22, 23, 24, still not going, 25, 26, 27, there it goes, 28, 29, 30. So it started to reflow maybe around 25 seconds and really got it around at 30 seconds. Let me try going to this one. Ready? Again, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to be counting as I'm touching the pad with the FX-951 and a T15 D5 shape. So here we go. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, there it starts to go, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So it'll start to melt the joint, maybe somewhere around 17 seconds to completely reflow the entire pad and the joint. It took about 30 seconds, right? So I'm going to do the same thing, but I want to use the FX-801 and the T33 tip shape this time. So I'm going to go same thing. Let me zoom back out on this camera. And by the way, this is a very nice tool that I think everyone should have, by the way. It's a tip thermometer. It's called the FG100B, by the way. Anyone who has a soldering station, I recommend, should have a tip thermometer with them, just like the FG100B, just so you can verify your tip temperatures. And again, what I'm going to be doing now is I just used the FX-951, so now I'm going to be using the FX-801 soldering station. It's set at 400 degrees Celsius, and I have the T33, regular T33 D5 tip plugged into my FX-801 soldering station. And as it's heating up, I'm just going to prep the tip really quickly, feed it some solder to get it going. And there's that beep that's telling me that the station is now at 400 degrees Celsius. And if we take the measurement, about 4, come back down, 415. There you go. And that's, again, it was in, I'm using it in high power mode, so it's going up and coming back down. So while it came down, it comes down to 415. So it's the temperature wise, the 951 and the 801 are equal. So let's go back to the actual board. And I used these two pads when I did the 951. They're still a little bit warm here, so I'm gonna go ahead and not use those. I'll probably use the ones on here on the other side, so that we're giving a fair comparison. Let me zoom in a little bit. There you go. And zoom in a little bit more. I'm just trying to get the right amount of focus. Maybe zoom in. So I'll work with this one, and I'll work with that one. Center, let's see. There we go. So here you go. Start off with this one. I'm going to be counting down again. This is, again, the FX-801 with the T33 D5. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, There it goes, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh, and it's completely reflowed at this point. Now let me do the other joint. I'm going to be doing this one now. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can see that it's completely reflowed. So that one took about 5-6 seconds. And I can even show you another one here, this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a difference. The 300 watts of power really make a difference when you're working on very large applications, larger components like I was talking about earlier, larger inductor coils, large coils like the ones you see here, heat shields, larger transformers, larger wires and cable and wire harness assemblies really make a difference. And the difference you see, as I showed you guys, in the amount of time that you're spending on that application. You guys saw that the 951 at 400 degrees, you can work on such applications, but it's going to take you long periods of time. Whereas when you use the FX-801, that time is going to be cut down to, you saw it, it took anywhere from close to 20 seconds with the 951. In the case of 801, FX-801, that time got cut down into maybe 6-7 seconds. So that's a drastic cut down in your process time thanks to the power of the FX-801. So that was one quick demo that I wanted to give everyone. The other interesting demonstration I would like to show everyone really quickly here before we call it a day. So I have this block of solder right there. Right? There we go. Let's see it slowly melting away. There it is. You guys see that? It's melting a bar of solder at 400 degrees Celsius set on my soldering station. The high power, the 300 watt power of the FX-801 will allow you to even melt a piece of a bar of solder, as you can see here. So I thought that would be a very interesting demonstration to show everyone for today's webinar, demonstrating again the high power of the FX-801 soldering station. Okay. So let me go ahead and tin the tips before I put them away. So that was a real quick demonstration. I hope I was able to show the difference in power between a standard soldering iron versus a ultra heavy duty FX-801 ultra heavy duty soldering iron. Difference: 75 watts of power, 300 watts of power. I used these large coils with the large thermal release for one demonstration, and also use the piece of the solder bar as another demonstration. The difference between time when I was using the coil, working on the coils, and in the case of the solder bar. That's the power that I wanted to show you on the FX-801, right? Again, a good analogy that I always like to use, I always like to put it in terms of like a car analogy, but the 951, it's a great workhorse soldering station of ours. Very famous, very well liked in our industry. I'll call it like the Toyota Camry, right? Of the soldering stations. But when I think of the FX-801, that's more of like the, say, I'll call it power-wise, like the, what would it be? Like a Toyota Tundra, right? More massive, more powerful. That's like the analogy I like to put it. Camry versus a Tundra. Very big difference in power. Again, the 801 is not for your everyday electronic assemblies. And it's for those people, again, that are working on very large components. Large inductor coils, large transformers, very large capacitors, thick boards, any type of application where there's a necessity to deliver a lot of heat, very high thermal demand that a regular soldering iron cannot do. The FX-801 is the station for you. So I hope you learned something here. If you have any questions about today's webinar or about the FX-801 ultra heavy duty soldering stations, please feel free to reach out to us at support@HakkoUSA.com, or you can give us a call at 1-800-88-HAKKO. That's 1-800-88-HAKKO. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. And remember, keep your eye on Hakko.